The tragic death of a young man not only shakes a community to its core, but brings attention to a fate that far too many young Black men like him have accepted as everyday life. And with every passing year, the hope that this young man may finally see the justice he deserves seems further and further out of reach. Today, we will be taking a look at the unsolved murder of Tavares Eugene Bryant, which took place in Dana Beach, Florida in August of 1996. If you're new here, hi, my name is Devin, and welcome to Kept on Ice, a true crime podcast where we focus on cold and unsolved cases. If you find cases like this interesting, please be sure to subscribe and follow this podcast. So Tavares Eugene Bryant was born on December 20th, 1979, to his mother, Jeanette Bryant. I was unable to find much information about his father, but I do know that the family lived in the small town of Dana Beach, Florida, just south of Fort Lauderdale. Tavares was the only boy of his mother's 3 children, and he was described as an extremely loving son, brother, nephew, uncle, and friend who will never be forgotten. His smile has been described by his mother as the, quote, electric smile, end quote, as well as having the biggest dimples that would just warm your heart. Quote, he had a subtle smile that would light up a room, but he was more or less a quiet person, end quote. Tavares is remembered for his love of riding and fixing bicycles, but most significantly, he is remembered for his love of football as he was the star quarterback at South Broward High School. In his spare time, he worked part-time at the Pepsi Dana Air Park, and people have said that he, quote, loved to work, end quote, and was an extremely hardworking young man with a very bright future ahead of him. Vonisha Thomas, his sister, has said of him, quote, star quarterback, definitely star, pro NFL player, definitely all the way. That was his heart, that was his passion, end quote. And by all accounts, his friends, family, teammates, and community believed Tavares' talent in football would propel him into a very successful career. But outside of football, those who truly knew him described him as a very family-oriented young man who looked forward to holidays with his family, especially when it came to his mother's home-cooked meals. Janet has said of her son, quote, he was a good person. He has a smile that would open up your heart. Everybody loved him. He didn't bother no one. End quote. She has also said that Thanksgiving and Christmas were some of Tavares' favorite holidays, namely because there was always plenty of food for him to eat. And overall, his family and friends have nothing but extremely lovely things to say about Tavares Eugene Bryant. So as we get into today's story, there's going to be some conflicting information that has been reported. I have gathered multiple articles and newspaper clippings and have provided you guys with the most accurate story based on information that is supported. And the version of events I'm going to lay out today is the one that seems to be the most supported, not only by our limited evidence, but by Tavares' family as well. So on August 10th, 1996, Tavares was home in the apartment that he shared with his sister, Lisa. Shortly before 2 a.m., Tavares receives a page from his girlfriend at the time asking him to give her a call. Throughout the years of this case, Tavares' girlfriend has remained anonymous, and I will be referring to her as Tavares' girlfriend for the remainder of this episode. So Tavares' girlfriend asked him to call her at around 2 a.m. on August 10th. However, remember this is 1996, not everybody had a home phone, and Lisa and Tavares did not have a phone in their apartment. So it was common practice for Tavares to leave his home and go to a payphone that was about 2 blocks away. And on this particular night, he adhered to this practice. His sister Lisa remembers Tavares telling her that he would be right back, and him walking out of the front door and never coming back home. For some context, Lisa was pregnant at the time and reportedly was having a very difficult pregnancy. She was constantly ill and was extremely tired all the time. And because of this, she actually ends up falling asleep shortly after Tavares leaves the apartment. So Tavares rides his bike to Sam's Coin Laundry, located at 225 Southwest 4th Avenue, in the 200 block of Southwest 1st Court. That is where the payphone that he usually used to make his calls is located. So when Tavares arrives at the payphone, he calls his girlfriend. We don't know what, if anything, was said before shots were fired from an unknown location, and a single shot would hit Tavares, causing him to slump over on the sidewalk by the payphone. We do know, however, that Tavares' girlfriend does answer the phone call, but only hears him moaning. Reportedly, she does not hear any gunshots over this call before the line goes dead. And when that line goes dead, sometime after 2 a.m., his girlfriend and her mother rush to the scene, find Tavares wounded and lying in a puddle of his own blood on the sidewalk. The police were immediately called, and the Dana Beach Fire and Rescue Team arrived shortly after this call. However, very sadly, 16-year-old Tavares Eugene Bryant would be pronounced dead at the crime scene upon their arrival. It was sometime after 2 a.m. that Lisa is awoken by a loud banging on her front door. Lisa says of the incident, quote, "I remember opening the door to our neighborhood friend, and the only thing he told me was that Tavares has been shot," end quote. Soon after Lisa finds out that her brother is gone, Janet also receives the news that her son has been shot and killed at Sam's Coin Laundry. And as you can imagine, when she first hears this news, she's in utter disbelief. Janet has said of the incident, quote, "I got in the car and I was driving, and as I was driving, I just kept saying, 'No, God, it's not my son. God, it's not my son. This is not my son. They got the wrong child. It's not my son,'" end quote. When she inevitably arrived at the scene of the crime, she jumped out of her car, actually still leaving it in drive, and someone else had to jump in the car to stop it, as she ran over, hoping that the body she saw laying on the ground was not her son. Unfortunately, to her horror, she remembers seeing her son's body laid on the sidewalk and not covered up by a sheet. And as she got closer, she remembers somebody yelling out, quote, "That's his mother, cover him up," end quote. And of course, any loss can be devastating, but this case is particularly devastating as she so suddenly lost her child, and then to come upon the scene and see your child's last moments, that has to burn a memory, not only in your mind, but in your heart, in your spirit. And my heart really goes out to Tavares' family, but specifically his mother, because she saw her son's final moments, and no mother should have to see that. The Wednesday after Tavares' death, members of his family and the community gathered at Dana's Modelo Park to mourn the loss of their friend by holding a candlelight vigil in his honor. At that vigil, some of Tavares' friends took it upon themselves to collect money to assist Tavares' mother with his funeral cost. After just a couple of hours, the teens were able to raise $560 to give back to Tavares' family for funeral costs and other arrangements necessary to give their friend a proper burial. And $560 in 1996 is approximately $1,215 in 2026 money. Tavares Eugene Bryant was laid to rest 1 week later in a sky blue coffin at the Canonia Worship Center in Carver Ranches. Though no arrest had been made at the time of his burial, friends and family maintained that justice would be served for the young man whose life was ended far too soon. They pleaded for anyone in the community to come forward with information that could solve Tavares' murder. While Tavares' friends and families are making arrangements for his burial, police and detectives start to investigate this case. and a problem becomes very clear to investigators very quickly. There are no witnesses, and reportedly, no one heard any shots the night of Tavares' murder. And according to available police reports and records, the motive does not seem to be robbery, as all of Tavares' belongings were found on him. And with no witnesses and seemingly no explanation as to why someone would ever want to kill Tavares, his case began to run cold almost immediately. However, there does seem to be a break in the case in February of 1997, approximately 6 months after Tavares' murder, as someone had come forward and stated that they had saw a shooting and robbery back in August of 1996. And investigators are overjoyed with the possibility that they will finally be able to put this case to rest. However, that excitement was short-lived, as unfortunately, the witness was confused and had mistaken the murder of Tavares Bryant with an unreported attempted robbery that had taken place in Pompano Beach. Luckily, no one was killed as a result of that incident, but with this witness no longer being a witness, investigators are back to square one. A year after Tavares' murder, his death remained a mystery. His family, his community, and even the police grew tired and frustrated with his case, as their investigation seemed to drag on with no new leads, no new suspects, no new motives, and no justice. Broward County Sheriff's Officer Detective Glenn Bucata has said of this case, quote, "I don't know why Tavares is dead. I know how he was killed, but I don't know why," end quote. And for over a year, Tavares' case sat on Detective Bucata's desk as he awaited for a break in the case, one that would never come, as this case remains unsolved to this day. For years after Tavares' murder, his family has been fighting for him to receive justice. They were and are still looking for his killer, and Detective Bucata stayed on the case for over 12 years, all to no avail. His mother has said of this, quote, "It's like a living hell to me. It really took my whole world from me, especially when you don't know who did it. That's something I would never wish on no parent, to have to bury their own child, because it's something that you'll never get over with. You never get over that. To know that I put my son in this ground, I'll never see him again. I'll never get to see that smile. I don't wish that on any parent. I really don't," end quote. Again, my heart goes out to Janet because she has factually dealt with one of the worst things you can experience as a parent. And I wish Tavares' entire family love, peace, and healing as you all continue to search for answers and for justice. So now we're going to take a deeper look into the investigation and some of the evidence that was collected in Tavares' case. So as part of my research, I read an interesting article where a member of the local press did an interview of some of Tavares' friends at his candlelight vigil. And the interviewer asked these young men why they think someone would want to kill Tavares. Their response was, quote, "Someone could have had a beef with Tavares. See, he had skills. He was making it. Maybe someone wanted to bring him down. He was smart, good looking, played ball, had a nice job. Girls liked him. Lots were jealous," end quote. The boys went on to explain that jealousy was a big problem in their community and stated that simply having more than the next guy could cost you your life. And this part of this case has always upset me because the boys that were interviewed are between the ages of 16 and 21. And I have a special place in my heart for the struggles that young Black men experience. And it always breaks my heart to read about young Black men speaking so matter-of-factly about their death for simply wanting better for themselves. Unfortunately, it is not a new phenomenon, and it is a problem to this day. But I specifically bring it up here because we shouldn't normalize it just because it happens often. Black boys deserve to be boys. They deserve to be treated like children. They deserve to act like children. They shouldn't be forced to grow up with this level of thinking. And I can't even imagine how much Tavares' death would have hit them because they already had this understanding and this experience, and then they watched it happen. As per his own friends, Tavares was the successful person who was going to make something of himself. And if what the boys have said is true, unfortunately, as this case is unsolved, we just don't know. They experienced him being ripped from this world simply because he was going to do well for himself. I will be sure to leave a link to the article I'm talking about so you all can read it, but just give that a deeper thought. I think it's important to not normalize this conversation of boys, girls, children maturing faster than what is appropriate. But now to go back into the case, I'm going to talk about Janet's opinion and perspective on this case. As very interestingly, she has said that she believes that Tavares' girlfriend knows more than she's leading on, but she's not saying anything. Quote, "From day one, I said that, and I still say that. Until the day that I die, she knows more than what she's saying now." End quote. Now, unfortunately, I do not have further explanation as to why Janet feels this way, but just given the circumstances, as the only reason Tavares was at that payphone in the first place is because his girlfriend asked him to call her, I can understand where Janet is coming from. But I want to make it clear, I'm not saying that his girlfriend knows anything, did anything like that. I'm just letting you know what I found and that I can understand where the thought process is coming from. And I can understand the thought process of the girlfriend. If I ask my boyfriend to call me, he calls me, I clearly hear him moaning in the phone, and then the line just goes dead, I too would be concerned about something happening to him, especially given that it is 2 a.m. So, as I think is very important when it comes to true crime, I can understand a lot of perspectives when it comes to this incident. Janet has also gone on to make other statements that she finds suspicious in her son's case. Quote, "Over time, even to this day, I wonder why at a busy intersection like that, which is off Sterling Road and Southwest 4th Avenue, that nobody saw anything, whether they be in a car or on foot or on a bicycle." End quote. And again, I think this is another interesting point. If this is typically a busy intersection, I am unfamiliar with this part of Florida, and nobody claims to have seen anything. Again, I can understand why that would be suspicious and why that doesn't make any sense. And finally, Tavares' sister, Vonisha, has reported that she has heard rumors that her brother's killing was actually a case of mistaken identity. Quote, "It was a group of Haitian guys, so-called going around. You put a hit on a person. They're going around killing people for money. And supposedly, my brother is a case of mistaken identity." End quote. So just like in the case of Tiffany Hollis, we have another instance of potential mistaken identity ripping an innocent teenager out of the lives of their friends and family. It's just despicable to me. Tavares' family keeps searching and speaking out because they truly believe that someone in their community knows something and they're just not coming forward. And they aren't the only ones that think this. Detective Bukata has also said that he knows that someone knows something. Quote, "There's always hope. I tell the family that one day I will come up with an answer." End quote. Tavares Eugene Bryant was a person of great strength. He was a generous and caring young man with a strong moral character. He loved helping others, especially his friends, who described him as the type of person you could always call. He often helped his friends when they had bicycle issues, and they described him as a very proud mechanic. Vonisha has said of her brother, quote, "If Tavares were here today, he would be a retired NFL player. That's the kind of gift he had while growing up. Everyone knew he would make it far." End quote. His best friend, Dante, also stated, quote, Tavares was a special kind of person. You just knew that he was a great guy all around. The loss of Tavares still haunts his family to this day, and it is difficult for them to pass the laundromat where he was killed. But they still hold on to the hope that one day the truth will come out because they believe that someone knows exactly what happened that night. And the family continues to celebrate Tavares in ways they can. Janet makes it a point to visit her son's grave on his birthday and on his favorite holidays every year, holding onto hope that one day she will be given the peace and the closure that comes with knowing exactly what happened to her son. I leave you with this final quote from Tavares' family. Quote, "After you are dead, everyone says you were great. Tavares Bryant was the kind of person people adored when he was alive." End quote. If you have any information, no matter how small you think it is, about the unsolved murder of Tavares Eugene Bryant, please call Broward County Crime Stoppers at 954-493-8477. I would love to hear your thoughts on this case. As always, please be respectful in your discussion and give all victims the utmost respect. And that concludes our story today. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Please be sure to leave a like and comment down below anything you would like to comment down below. And be sure to subscribe or follow this podcast on your way out. It would really mean a lot to me. Thank you again so much for listening. Never underestimate the power of your voice, and I'll see you in my next episode. Bye.